colleagues, and welcome to the Perth and Kinross Licensing Board of the 10th of March 2022. We have with us Councillor Brock, Councillor Gray, Councillor Duff, Councillor Parrott, Councillor Wilson, Councillor James and myself, Councillor Baird, who's presiding. Councillor Wilson, did I mention your name? I'm not quite sure about it.
Yes,
and Louise Cormack and Sarah Roger. We have apologies from McCall, Povert and Reid, as I said. Are there any declarations of interest? I wish to declare an interest in item 7.1 Taste Talk Limited, Dunkeld. Can we agree the minutes of the meeting of the 27th of January for approval and signature?
agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Can I now ask Police Scotland be brought into the meeting, please? Good morning. I'm not sure how many people we have got, so maybe I can ask if Police Scotland would introduce themselves, because we don't see all the names on the screen, or we just see +4. So could you maybe like to say who's with us? That would be helpful. Thank you.
Good morning, convener. You've got Sergeant James Gordon from Police Scotland, and accompanying me today is Constable Matthew Simpson.
Thank you very much. This is now we on to go to the personal licence review for Stephen Mcdougall. Can I ask Deputy Clerk? Sorry. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk to introduce the review, please?
Thank you, convener. Yes, so this is a hearing in relation to a personal licence following notice of a conviction for a relevant offence being received in relation to Mr Mcdougall, and that's under section 83 of the Act. Mr Mcdougall was issued his licence in March 2019. Mr Mcdougall notified the board of his conviction, and members have within their papers the letter received from Police Scotland and also a follow-up submission, a brief follow-up submission provided by Mr Mcdougall. Mr Mcdougall's not attending today.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Police Scotland to put forward their submission, please?
Yeah, no bother. Stephen Ian Mcdougall, as previously said, holds a licence with Perth and Kinross Council, which is due to expire on the 27th of March 2029. On the 26th of November 2021 at Perth Sheriff Court, Mr Mcdougall pled guilty and was convicted of an offence under sections 5(1)(a) of the Road Traffic Act 1988, drink driving. He was subsequently disqualified for 12 months and received an £800 fine. On the 14th of December 2021, Police Scotland submitted a notice of conviction to the board in relation to this. The circumstances around the conviction are that about 01:25 hours on Sunday the 31st of October 2021, police were requested to attend reports of a vehicle on its side and a male trapped within at the A85 Creeth to Perth Road, near its junction with the Highlandman Loan. Prior to police attendance, numerous motorists had stopped and assisted the male, who was eventually able to exit the vehicle through the boot. When police arrived, Mr Mcdougall approached the officers, identifying himself as the driver and that it was he who had been trapped within. He was remorseful to officers, admitting that he had been drinking in a premise in Creeth and had decided to drive home. Mr Mcdougall subsequently failed a roadside breath test, was arrested and thereafter conveyed to Perth Police Office. A further specimen of breath was taken and a lower reading of 63 micrograms of alcohol per 100 millilitres of breath was recorded, the limit being 22 micrograms of alcohol per 100 millilitres of breath. Mr Mcdougall was cautioned and charged under section 5(1)(a) of the Road Traffic Act 1988 and advised he would be reported with regards to this offence. Police Scotland make no representation in this case and would invite the board to consider all options available to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now open up to questions. Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, Convener. Thanks for the report and the letter. The disposal was a disqualification for 12 months and an £800 fine and a £40 victim surcharge. Kind of 2 points. Who was the victim surcharge in? Was there a passenger in the car at the time, or who was the victim? And is that disposal reasonably near the high end of what might be dispensed as a punishment, or is it near the middle? Just to give us an indication. Thank you.
Certainly from the police report, it doesn't make mention to any passengers within the vehicle. In terms of the surcharge, that was a fiscal's decision. That was a matter out with Police Scotland, so I can't comment on that. Yeah, it's kind of, in terms of the months disqualification, 12 months disqualification, that's the minimum for a Section 5. Perhaps my sergeant can give an answer on the fine. I'm not sure about the amount of the fine.
Thank you.
In response to Constable Simpson, he's absolutely correct. The disqualification period for drink driving does carry a minimum disqualification period of 12 months. The fine, it varies on dependent cases. It depends on their income, and the courts will take that into consideration to determine what is the appropriate punishment part of the order, and it's the court that determine that, but they take into the fact their disposable income and other such matters.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. Can I just suggest perhaps the £40 victim surcharge was the cost of repairing the farmer's fence or whatever that he's gone through? The question I had was whether the police could confirm whether he had completed the drink driver rehabilitation course he mentions in his email.
I can't comment on that. Once the fiscal can give out the conviction and that comes with that, we don't have anything else really to do with that, and we never hear any more updates on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gray.
I can't see anywhere, but do we know the age of Mr. Mcdougall?
I can check our systems quickly. Yeah, 85 date of birth, so that would make 36, 37.
Okay, right, thank you. There was another one I had, I can't remember it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Parrott has put in the chat the understanding of the victim surcharge is a standard top-up to a fine not dependent on the circumstances of a particular case. So that's Councillor Parrott's comment to that one. Okay, I don't see. Councillor Gray,
yeah, can I just ask it? And it was a question relating to, would the fine be related to the fact that it was actually an accident involved as well as drink driving?
I don't know. Again, that would be something for the courts. Sorry,
Okay.
I can't answer that.
Right, thanks.
thank you very much. I don't see anyone else wishing to ask any further questions. So can I now ask the police to sum up, please? If you have anything else you wish to add?
No, not just the contents of the letter, really. That was it.
Thank you very much. Now, members, I think we are ready to make a decision. Do you wish to retire to consider this review, or do you think we can make a decision at this time? I personally don't see any need to retire, but I will.
Agreed.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Well, we've all heard what the police said, and we realised that the driver here was very remorseful, and he reported it immediately to the time, and we understand from what he has told us that he has completed the course that he was asked to do. So I would like to propose that we note the offence on the personal licence and take no further action. Do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Gray, see you. Oh, Councillor James has seconded it. Okay. Councillor James. Anyone else think differently? It's an amendment.
Yes, if I may.
Yes, Councillor Parrott.
My view is that this should not go, if you like, without formal consequence. And I would propose, if necessary, by way of amendment, that we go for the next option down, which is to note the offence on the personal licence and endorse the licence. I don't believe that this action should be without, if you like, consequence in terms of were it to happen again, so to speak. I feel that simply noting it without further action is a little lenient, but others may disagree.
Thank you very much. Do you have a seconder for your amendment, Councillor Parrott?
I'm not sure, and if I don't, then I'll accept the judgment of others.
I would be prepared to accept to second the amendment, convener.
Thank you, Willie.
Oh, okay, we now will need to go to a vote.
Can I comment?
Yes, Councillor Gray, you may.
Yeah, I tend to think, I've got to say that this individual in his mid-30s, he may well have a young family, I really don't know. But he did face a hefty fine. He has been seriously penalised already. He was very remorseful, and I think due consideration needs to be taken of that, of these points. Therefore, you know, noting it in his licence is as legitimate. It does cover the fact that he did commit an offence. It is related to his job, and that will be seriously dealt with should he misdemean again. So I'm quite happy to leave it with the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor James, you wish to comment?
Yeah, please, convener. And I seconded your motion because, like Councillor Gray, I agree that he has faced a hefty fine, and this, if you read the paperwork that we've been sent and the report, this was after a social occasion, not a work occasion, and the licence is specific to his job. So for that reason, I think the punishment has been dished out in the form of a driving ban and a huge fine, and I don't think that adding restriction to his future employability is required. So that's why I'm going just for the noting rather than a physical thing on his licence. Thanks, convener.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brock.
Yeah, convener, thank you. Like Councillor Gray and Councillor James, I'm minded to be the same. I think he's took his punishment already, and I believe it's a first offence. Is that right? Am I correct? I don't see anything else on it. So hopefully it'll be a one-off, and he has carried out everything that he was asked to do. He's been and done his course and everything. So yeah, I just wanted to put that bit in, but as I say, Councillor Gray and Councillor James has already said everything that I wanted to say with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parrott.
Yes, thank you. My understanding is that an endorsement is not additional punishment, but it's merely a more formal recording of what has happened. So I don't see it as being anything by way of punishment, but it's more formal recording of what has happened, which I believe is appropriate. But I'd be willing to be corrected and would perhaps wish to understand the difference between merely noting the offence and endorsing the offence. Thank you.
I will ask Sarah to give us some more information. Sarah?
Thank you, convener. Yeah, my understanding is that the difference is that the endorsement will appear on the licence, whereas noting it won't. I don't know whether Louise can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my understanding, is that when the licence is endorsed, the licence is returned to us and a new licence is issued with the offence noted on the, endorsed on the licence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay, in that case, I understand that the position is as I thought it was, and I will maintain my position. Thank you.
Can I just ask, because on the Sarah, it's a wee bit confusing because it does actually say note on the personal licence. So I would have presumed that it's going to be noted on the personal licence. That's what it says. I know it's a different word, and I just thought it was as a note without an endorsement.
No, I think it'll be noted on the licence in terms of the records we have.
Yeah, well, that's okay. That's fair enough.
That's my understanding anyway.
Yeah, so it's still noted, and it's the licensing board would be aware of it if it came back for something else, which is exactly. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Right, I see no one else wishing to comment. I think we're ready to go for the vote.
Convener, can I just raise one issue just before you do that? I just want to clarify with Councillor Parrott, because the decision to endorse should be linked to one of the licensing objectives. Now, just for clarification, I'm assuming that the licensing objective that Councillor Parrott has in mind is the prevention of crime licensing objective, that would be the basis on which the licence should be endorsed. Would that be correct, Councillor Parrott?
The answer to that is no.
Okay.
I'm betwixt and between then. If it has to be linked to one of the licensing objectives, my point in making the amendment is that I feel that the offence or the condition needs to be formally noted, but if it has to be linked to a licensing objective, then I don't feel that can be made, because, and this is why I asked the question earlier, this was in a social context and not related to the employment. If it was related to an employment, then I think there would be a licensing objective called into question. In view of that, Councillor Wilson, I would prefer to withdraw the amendment in that case if it has to be linked to one of the licensing objectives, because I don't think that in this case it can, and my reason for doing it was because I felt it needed formal noting as opposed to, if you like, informal noting, which I believe the motion proposes. But if Councillor Wilson is happy, in view of that, I would withdraw the amendment.
Not wanting to extend the discussion on going over all 5 of the objectives, I think I'm tending to agree with you, Councillor Parrott, and I'm content that you should withdraw your amendment and allow the motion to pass. NEMCON.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So therefore, we agree that to note the offence on the personal licence and no further action taken. Thank you. So thank the police for attending this morning, and I don't think we require you for any other part of today's business. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. We now move on to item 6.1, Invergowrie Convenience Store. This is a premises licence review proposal for Invergowrie Convenience Store, 55 Main Street, Invergowrie. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk to introduce the review?
Thank you, Convener. Yes, this is a review of the premises licence for Invergowrie Convenience Stores. The basis of the review is a breach of mandatory condition 10 subparagraph 2, which is that the annual fee for the licence must be paid as required by the statutory framework. So in relation to this premises, there are in fact 2 years of unpaid fees, fees for 2020 and the fees for 2021. Various attempts to chase the licensee up have been made, and Mrs. Cormack can speak to that because she's done some chasing up in relation to this. I think it seems apparent from her report that the premises are closed, and so the board needs to first of all determine whether the grounds for review are set out, which would be that one of the conditions has been breached, and then would consider what the outcome of that should be, and that could include suspension or revocation of the licence.
Thank you very much. Can I ask Mrs. Cormack to put forward the submission, please?
Morning, members. With regard to the report that you have before you, just as an update, that the payment has not been received. There's not been communication. All our lines of communication have all been exhausted. The premises look like they have been abandoned. There have been visits carried out, and there is no signage. It doesn't look like the business is certainly trading, and it looks like it ceased trading some time ago. So I think it's going to be something that we're not likely to receive those 2 annual fees.
Thank you very much. Members have any questions for Mrs. Cormack? Councillor Gray. Councillor Gray, you're on mute.
Well, the premises apparently closed the first time you looked when this was first. Yeah. Okay. So all the time it's been apparently closed. Fine. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else wishing to ask any questions. I think Councillor Parrott, sorry.
Just a comment, if I may. In what way do we, in this case, publicly notify the decision, or is there a process? If we can't contact the owners, is there any process of making it putting it into the public domain that this licence has been revoked or action has been taken?
Councillor Parrott, the minutes from this meeting will be published online. So that is probably the only mechanism we have where we haven't been able to actually make contact with the licence holder.
Okay, but there's no policy of posting notices or anything in journals or whatever?
No.
Okay,
no.
Louise?
Sorry, just if I can just jump in there. Depending on the decision that's taken today, and if the status of the licence was to be updated, that forms part of the licensing register, which is open for the public. Okay. To check, so yeah. It maybe gets more information out there, if that's of assistance.
Thanks for that clarification for me. Thank you.
Members, do we agree that grounds for review are established on the basis of breach of mandatory condition 10.2 of the premises licence?
Yes.
Agreed.
Agreed. So what steps do we wish to impose on the premises licence? I would presume revocation of the licence.
Agreed.
Happy to second that. Yeah.
Thank
agreed.
you. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk, is there anything else to add to that? No.
No, nothing to add.
Right. Thank you very much. We now move on to item 6.2, annual fees review for Wellwood House. This is the premises licence review proposal for Wellwood House, 13 Westmoreland Road, Pitlochry. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk to introduce the review?
Thank you, Convener. I think for the sake of brevity, I'll just say that this is exactly the same as the previous application considered. It's the same circumstances and the same decision that the board has to make.
Thank you. Mrs. Cormack, can I ask you for your submission, please?
Yep. Almost just echo those comments by Mrs. Roger there, is that the circumstances are almost identical. Visits have been undertaken. Again, I've popped in my report there that the premises do look like they've been poorly maintained. And certainly at the last visit, which was the 25th of January, nothing had changed from the first visit that had taken place before.
Thank you. Can I ask members if they've got any questions? No. Okay, thank you for that. Members, do we agree that grounds for review are established on the basis of breach of mandatory condition 10.2 of the premises licence?
Yes.
Agreed.
Thank you. So members, do we wish to impose, what steps do we wish to impose on the premises licence? I propose that we revoke the licence for these premises.
Agreed.
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 Sarah, have you anything you wish to add?
No, nothing to add.
Thank you very much. I will now be leaving the meeting as I have previously declared an interest in the following item, and I hand over to Vice Convener Councillor James. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Convener.
Thank you very much indeed, Kathleen, or Convener, sorry. And yes, on to Taste Talk, major variation. Can I ask that all the participants are brought in, please? That looks like we have everybody in. Good morning. I've got Mr. Peter Hannum. I hope you can hear me, sir. Good. And Mrs. Caroline Robinson. Can you hear me? Lovely. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Convener, I don't think Mr. Hynam's microphone was working there. Or at least I couldn't hear his reply.
In fact, on my screen, I don't know everybody else. His screen seems to have frozen up. Mr. Hannum, can you hear us? Don't you love technology? Okay, he's gone again. No, he's not. He's there. Have we got somebody from IT on who can see if we're actually got Mr. Hannum? It looks like he's in the meeting, but I can't hear or see him at the moment.
Councillor James, we don't have IT support for this meeting.
Okay.
I don't know whether it might be worth Shona trying to make contact with Mr. Hannum by telephone. Shona, I don't know if you have contact details.
I'm just phoning them just now. I'll be a second.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Shona. Gillian Marsh. Isn't this the lady that came previously?
She's maybe trying to make
Trying
access through a different device, perhaps.
That's what I'm thinking.
It looks like she's trying something else.
Oh, that's working, I think. Yeah. All right, they've got both now.
You put that on, Peter, if you put that on.
Sounds like a scene from Aliens.
Right. Can you hear me?
Mrs. Marsh, I think you'll probably need to disconnect the connection on the other device because we're getting really bad
on the other device.
feedback. Yeah.
That's what Peter's trying to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
That seems to be it now. How does that sound?
You'll need to mute the other device, Mrs. Marsh.
It's actually Miss Marsh, but sorry.
Oh, Miss Marsh, sorry.
Mrs. Marsh is my mum. Apologies for that. Can everyone hear us now?
Perfectly. Thank you very much.
Turn the
And
laptop
welcome.
around so that you can see the three of us, because it's obviously the three directors. It's Peter, myself, Gillian, and our Financial Director, Angus Mcdougall.
Thank you.
Hello.
Do we still? Good morning, sir. I just need to do some introductions and some admin, so please bear with me. Do we have Mrs. Robinson still online? I've noticed she's there, but I don't actually see her on screen.
Yep, I'm here. Can you
There
hear
you go. You're still there. Okay, lovely. Right, sorry. Finally, we're all here, and welcome. Just by way of introduction, my name is Ian James. I'm Deputy Convener. The convener has declared an interest and left the meeting. Also with us today, I have Councillor John Duff, Councillor Rona Brock, Councillor Andrew Parrott, Councillor Tom Gray, Councillor Willie Wilson, and we also have our Deputy Clerk, Miss Sarah Rogers, and we also have from our licensing standards, Louise Cormack. So that's the introductions. Excuse me. So this is a major variation, which we have item 7 on our papers. Miss Roger, can I ask you to take this on, please?
Yes, thank you, Vice Convener. Yeah, so this is an application for a variation of the premises licence for Taste Talk, 14 High Street, Dunkeld. And the variation essentially is to change the operating plan to permit recorded music and the showing of films. There is, as members know, an objection to the application. So just for the benefit of those attending this morning, the process we follow is that the licensing standards officer will make a submission initially in relation to the variation application and will answer members' questions in relation to that. The objector to the application then has an opportunity to make a submission and again maybe ask questions by the members, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to make a submission and be asked questions by the board members, and then everybody sums up with the applicant having the final opportunity to sum up, and then the board will make a decision. Okay, so I thought that was helpful just to clarify that, and I'll hand back over to the Vice Convener now.
Thanks very much for that, Sarah. Appreciate it. Can I ask Miss McCormack to, sorry, not a muck on there, Miss Cormack, please, to speak to this paper. Thank you.
No worries. Morning, everybody. Rather than read through the whole content of my submission, I'll just really paraphrase and just take parts from it. I've got a feeling that my voice isn't going to hold up. If I read the whole lot, I'll go into a coughing fit. So with regard to the provisional premises licence, it was approved by the licensing board on the 4th of November 2021. A number of, or a condition, a local condition was applied to the premises licence, which referred to a number of policies being in place. The licence holder has been working with me with regard to those policies, which I understand you've received a copy of. With regard to the confirmation of the premises licence, that was carried out at the same time. The letter of objection, I viewed that regarding this application, and it was noted that Mr. and Ms. Robinson had suggested that the National Trust for Scotland, the owners of the building, should be arranging for soundproofing to be installed within their property, which my understanding is that that's directly above the premises. I've made inquiries with the National Trust for Scotland, and they have confirmed that soundproofing work is to be undertaken, which is for the benefit directly of the tenant. However, a date for the work to commence hasn't been provided. Furthermore, it's my understanding that the premises shall mainly operate during daytime hours, with the occasional pairing event taking place in the premises in the evening. And I should advise that any future noise complaint shall be considered in the normal manner.
Thanks, Louise. Thanks for that. the following process. Next item is for the objector, Miss Caroline Robinson, to make a deputation.
Convener, sorry, just I don't know whether members have got any questions they want to ask Mrs. Cormack at this point before you go on to hear from the objector.
My bad. I'm my screen. I'm struggling with my screen.
No, I know.
Today.
I understand.
I've got an awful broadband connection today, and I do apologise. So I'm here struggling with bits of paper and all sorts. So I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions for Louise, please? Sorry about this, Ms. Robson. And I'm seeing nothing coming up in the chat. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's nothing coming up in the chat the way things are going today. No, I have nothing. Okay.
Councillor Brock has her hand up.
So she does. I'm so sorry. Rona, sorry, you have a question for Louise. And you're on mute, unless that's my broadband again.
It's me. No, it's me. I just wondered if there's any noise, any way that we've recorded any noise or anything beforehand, or do we have any information on that if it should be done?
That may be a question directly to the resident. Information and guidance has been given to the resident or the tenant, sorry, objector, on how to monitor any noise issues. So no, there's not been any noise monitoring from the licensing department.
Okay, right, thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Brock. No further questions. So now I can go over to Mrs. Robinson for your deputation. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. So you'll have seen the letter that we provided to the licensing board. So as mentioned already, we live directly above the shop and actually within the building. So as I set out in the letter, in 2014, that building was actually separated. So 14 and 14A, as it was created when we moved into the flat, were separated by means of a partition wall between the downstairs, which is where the where Taste Talk sits, in the downstairs of this overall building. And so we live in 14A, which is on the downstairs, and above, which sits on the High Street in Dunkeld, which is actually the cross in the centre of Dunkeld, and the main High Street is actually Bridge Street and Athol Street. So a little bit of history there for you, because it's a bit confusing. So the building was separated by National Trust, and prior to that, the retail property had been used by the person who lived in the building itself. So that was always operated by someone who lived there, and therefore the fact that it was all in the same building made sense. And also prior to this lease being taken on, it was always a retail outlet that was open 9 to 5 and to sell mainly knickknacks and curios. So the change that was made in 2014 was to put in this partition wall. And also we understand from National Trust that there was an amount of asbestos that was uncovered. So there was quite a lot of work to remove asbestos. And we understand from National Trust that that has contributed to the fact that that was providing some level of soundproofing and insulation, which has now been removed. So not only was this all one property and therefore didn't have the soundproofing that you might see in 2 separate properties that had been built as 2 separate properties, but also that asbestos was removed and therefore the soundproofing is very limited. We do have carpets. I think in a previous licensing board it was said that we don't, we do. But we don't have that level of separation between the 2 buildings that you might expect from 2 separate buildings that were expected to be a standalone retail outlet and a place for people to live. This is quite a dense residential area. It's one of the, it's got many flats and residential properties, and one of the most densely populated residential areas of Dunkeld, given that we don't have that many places to live around and about. And the main focus of our objection is about the noise that we then hear from the retail unit below, coming straight up to the bedrooms of our children, who are 7 and 5, who sleep directly above that retail unit, and ourselves, who sleep directly above as well. Already at the moment, there is a fridge that goes on and off constantly throughout the night. And so we sleep with earplugs all through the night, because that goes on and off and wakes us up every time it goes on and off. And whenever there's talk and discussion, that comes straight up and we hear everything as well. And no doubt the same down below. We've lived here for 3 years. We're just trying to sleep and get on with our lives. So I guess that's the main concern that we have, is that noise is pretty much obstructed at the moment. It's mentioned about the soundproofing, so that is and will happen at the beginning of April, actually, as we understand. We don't know what will happen with that. We've previously lived in a ground floor flat and had soundproofing, and it didn't make a huge amount of difference. Maybe it will make a big difference, and then perhaps the licensing board could revisit this discussion. At the moment, the amount of impact on our lives of that noise is huge. As I said, wake throughout the night with the noise of a fridge. So when there's music in that building, and just bearing in mind the opening hours of 10 a.m. to 10 p.m, and our kids go to sleep at 7 and we go to sleep around 10, that noise will keep our children awake. It will affect us throughout the evening because of the fact that we hear everything currently. And I guess that's pretty much the main focus of what we have. We also have a bit of confusion about the fact that it's an off-premises license, given so much activity will be happening within the premises. And as I said, the history of this premises is that it's been a retail outlet 9 to 5. We now have, even though there's discussion about occasional use, the license spans 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So whatever happens within that can happen effectively, and we don't have any way of controlling that. So in terms of the stress that causes to us as what might happen and when it might happen, and we haven't had any notification of that, it's quite great. And then the only other thing that I'd mention is that like I said, we haven't got any other premises around this residential area that operate these antisocial hours in the heart of all of these residential properties. And so we don't see why such a big shift should be made in the case of this premises, particularly given that it sits within the building in which we live and directly adjacent to other flats owned by National Trust Scotland as well. So we would strongly ask that you consider to just leave it as it is, which is already quite a big shift in what it was previously, which is a big shift to the opening hours and to the licensing situation. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ms. Robinson. Nice deputation there. I have some questions for you. The first one coming in is from Councillor Wilson. Your question, please, sir.
Thanks, Vice Convener, and thanks, Ms. Robertson, for your submission. I did know the premise in the old days when it was a combined shop, but just to check with you, you've said 2 bedrooms are immediately above the premise that we're talking about. Is your other have you any accommodation still on the ground floor? Just to clarify that in my mind. That's my first point.
Yeah, that's right. So the retail unit, as you used to know it then, spanned the front of the ground floor, and the partition wall that was put in by National Trust is between 2 rooms essentially. So one room we use, our kids actually use it to play in and do their homework and things. And then the other side now is the retail outlet. So that's been separated. And then at the back of the property is our kitchen. And those are the 2 rooms on the ground floor for us.
And upstairs are your sleeping accommodation. And do you have a sitting room upstairs?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. And then the stairs that goes up kind of goes across the 2 properties as well.
Yes. If I might continue, Vice Convener, the National Trust have said they're putting in soundproofing in April, which is a few weeks away. Do you know what the nature of that is? Is it relating to the floors or the?
Yeah, so it'll go under the floors and it will go across the area, just the bit of the bedrooms and the living room. So the 3 rooms that are kind of closest to the retail outlet.
Okay, but it's confined to treating the floor areas.
Yeah.
Soundproofing. Okay, and my third point, very briefly, is that have you had any experience of evening occasions when the premises have been in use under their existing license?
So no, not for music, not for events. We've had experience of a lot of building work happening in the evening, which is quite tricky, but we've not had events, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. I have a question from Councillor Gray for Ms Robinson. You're on mute again, Tom.
Thank you, Ms Robinson and Vice Convener. Do you hear any other noises, such as people talking from down below?
Yeah, we hear everything from down below.
Right, so it's not just the fridge humming away in the evenings, it's people talking and whatnot. So it's a very unprivate circumstance that you're in at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, doc. Right. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Gray. Councillor Duff, you've got a point of clarification, please.
Thanks. A couple of questions going to ask have already been asked, but I wondered if Sarah Roger could just clear up the comment that Ms Robertson made about on-premises consumption and an off-premises licence. Can you confirm that for the operations as described by the applicant, they do not require an on-site, an on-sales?
Yeah, that's correct. So if the tastings are, if it's tastings that are taking place, you don't require an on-sales license for that because it's linked to the off-sales.
Yep.
So that's a very common scenario, and Mrs. Cormack will be able to confirm it is very common both in licensed premises and also, for example, at markets. That people have an off-sales license, but that permits tastings as part of that off-sales process. You don't require on-sales just to do that.
No, that's fine. I think had it having been raised, I just wanted it recorded that was the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duff, and thanks for that, Sarah, as well. I've a question from Councillor Andrew Parrott.
Thank you very much, Deputy Convener. Mrs Robertson, can I inquire the soundproofing that the National Trust intends to install? I think you said that's on the floors of your flat and the wall, the partition wall that divides you from Taste Talks premises. Okay, so I can see you're nodding in the negative. So the soundproofing is only going on the floors,
yeah,
but not the wall of that is downstairs. And just to clarify, is all of that soundproofing work taking place in your premises or in Taste Talks premises?
Yeah, all in our premises. We'll have to move out for that to happen.
Okay, thanks for that.
Wow. Councillor Brock, question, please.
Yeah, hello, Mrs. Marsh. I'm presuming Historic Scotland have carried out a complete survey of all your areas that you're hearing the sound coming from. Is that correct?
Do you mean National Trust Scotland?
Oh, sorry, National Trust. Sorry, my apologies.
A complete survey. What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, you're saying it's just the floors and not the walls. So So is there a reason that they haven't looked at the walls?
I suppose because the main thing that we've been really, really anxious about is the fact that we sleep directly above the shop. So we've talked a lot about the floors and the sleeping arrangement. Actually, when you just asked that question, I just thought that partition wall was just put in as a partition wall in 2014. So I don't know. We've not discussed it. We've not been losing sleep literally at night about that wall, but they haven't done it. I don't know. They haven't done a sound survey or anything. We've just talked about the areas we're very concerned about. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for that, Councillor Brock. I have no further questions, and the questions I was going to ask have been asked by our members. And again, related, my interest, is in the children and sleeping arrangements. But I think you've pretty much covered that. Just one question: this license was fairly recently permitted as I'm losing my words today. Have you suffered more noise since this license has been approved?
So it was tricky over Christmas when it was busier and noisier, but also when there was music that was played, because that made it quite noisy. I think I had a discussion with PKC and licensing about that, and it's been better. So yeah, it was tricky at that.
Excuse me 1 second. Miss Marsh, can I ask you to mute your microphone, please, because I can't hear Miss Robinson properly.
Apologies, my apologies. I thought it was muted.
No problem. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, so I was just saying, yeah, it's got gradually noisier and busier, I guess, as a new business would, but there haven't been evening events, but it was tricky with music, which was played over Christmas. So yeah, that was noisier and busier.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I have no further questions for the time being, so I now ask the license holder to make their application, please. I'm not sure who's going to be speaking, if it's Ms. Marsh or Mr. Harrington. Yeah, yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much.
Gillian just wants to make a remark about the music over Christmas, which she can do in a minute. If we do not get permission to play music and show a few videos during the flings that we're holding, which are the events, we simply can't carry on using these premises. It's a very serious matter for us, this. The first point I'd make is that had we not made a mistake originally, this would have been part of the original application. So we've had to follow up with this major variation purely because of our own incompetence and lack of knowledge of how the system worked. And I apologize for bothering you a second time. But and I assure you that until the soundproofing is dealt with, we will not be making a lot of noise. We'll be very careful about not disturbing people upstairs. Just to deal with the question of soundproofing. The reason there is soundproofing is being done is that I put a lot of pressure on the National Trust to do something about it, and I'm very pleased to say they've taken the whole matter very, very seriously. They got specialists in to advise on what type of materials to use in the floor to make sure that sound wasn't being transmitted, and they've got a professional company coming to do the work, and the date they're starting is Monday the 4th of April. And as I understand it, they've already found accommodation for the tenants to move into for the period of the work being carried out. I don't know what else anybody can do to try and satisfy the people upstairs. We've had a lot of complaints from them, and the idea that you should revisit the whole question of whether we should have a license at all as part of this variation order is a wee bit irritating. We have more problem with sound coming downwards than probably they do upwards. and so it's in our interest to get this matter sorted, and I'm delighted to say is going to be sorted. The builder who is doing the work has been in to see us already on 2 occasions, so he's raring to go. It will be done, and on the basis of that, I hope you'll grant us permission. Gillian, would you like to say what you wanted to say about the music?
Yes, if you don't mind, I'd like just a few words. With regard to the music, it was light background music. Dougie McLean's written the CD for us. We commissioned him to write the CD, and it is instrumental music. Now, at the time when I had music playing, it was when we were working as a chocolate shop because we didn't have our license yet. So I had been making a coffee, and suddenly you, and I think that's Caroline's husband or partner, came in, and I said, "Oh, hey, how are you? I think your music's very loud." And he came in and he said, "Oh," I said, "but it's background music. It's, you know, well, we can hear it. We can hear it." Anyway, I said, "I'm sorry about that." So I actually turned it down, but it wouldn't even be as loud as a normal radio playing, so I could hardly hear it myself, and it literally is background music. I've never made any complaints about the noise upstairs because it's a two-way street, and it sounds like there's a herd of elephants living up the stairs, running up and down across the floors. We've never made any complaints because we realise it's somebody's home, and I wouldn't do that because that's not our nature to do that. Anytime they've come in, it's only been Ewan. Caroline doesn't speak to us. Anytime Ewan has come in, I always speak to him. I've spoken to his children. I've always been very amenable. I've asked him to come in, and I just don't know what else we can do with regards to any further noise. Since we've had our license, we haven't actually used our license yet for any flings. We haven't done any yet because we can't do a fling until we can show some small film shows. It's two-minute film shows and music. We're not going to do any flings until we can do that because it's going to just be somebody standing talking. So we haven't done anything. So to say the music or the noise has got worse, I don't understand that because we actually haven't used our license since we've had it. Thank you. Oh, and with regards to opening hours, to say that children's bedrooms upstairs, anything that we've asked, we put fairy lights in the window, we've still got them up. Ewan came down, said he was very concerned the children's bedrooms. So what we've done is we've got timer switches and they all go off mid-evening. So we've done everything they've asked to be good neighbours, to be conscientious. Sarah at the other side had concerns. She's been in quite a few times speaking. She said, "Oh no, Gillian, this music's fine, it's nice, you know, very, very nice." I don't play it since we had the phone call about the music, and you know, I don't play it at all. It got switched off immediately because Louise had said, well, I could get the noise team involved from Perth and Kinross Council. I said, you know what, Louise, I'll just put it off just now, and that's what I've done, and it's never been on since. With regards to opening hours and for children's bedrooms, we haven't had any flings, and as we've said earlier, we're only intending doing flings that would be very early evening. So the chances are by the time the fling has finished, the children would just be going to bed then. I hope that clarifies maybe some of our information for you councillors.
And I'd just like to just say one last thing about the music. We've only got one piece of music that we're going to play, and it's this one. It's an album of instrumental music, especially written for us by Dougie McLean and his son Jamie. Dougie, of course, lives just up the road from us here, and it's a very special part of the flings that we provide here and in other hotels around the country. Just to be, you won't be able to see it, but there on the back of the CD is our emblem taste talk, because the CD has been commissioned by us. So if you don't provide us with the permission to play a few extracts from this CD and help to sell them here as part of both the kit that we do and also separately, a major part of our business is wrecked. As I say, the soundproofing is being dealt with. There's nothing more we could do to ameliorate the situation. So I just hope you can give us a vote here. Thank you very much for listening to us.
Can I also just say there was a mention that, you know, it's a residential area and there are no other buildings that serve alcohol. Perthshire Arms is 2 doors along, and I think you'll find there'll be a lot of noise coming out of there, and there certainly won't be any noise coming out of here. As Louise Cormack very kindly said, she was very, very helpful with us. My fellow director, Angus, worked on all the policies to ensure that we won't be having rowdy people leaving here at night. They'll be told to leave with respect for neighbours, and we're very aware of that. After all, if I lived in a neighbourhood where there's a business, I would expect my neighbours to do the same.
Thank you.
No, thank you. I have some questions from councillors, if you're happy to answer. I have a question from Councillor Tom Gray.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Tell me the films. Don't mention the films. Are they going to be spoken films or music in the background of the film? They'll be spoken.
We're going to be, hello, Councillor. We're going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation. And within the PowerPoint presentation, there are two 2-minute film segments. One made by Visit Scotland on how to make whisky, and one made by Ian Burnett, the Highland chocolatier, explaining about where his chocolates come from and the ingredients that are contained within them. That's the only films we'll be showing, nothing else. And they're both about 2 minutes long. Right.
Tell me, do you accept this suggestion that if noise is transmittable from your premises upstairs, even with the sound put in, do you accept that repeat of exactly the same music and exactly the same film vocals would be particularly annoying? It's bad enough hearing a noise, but when you hear the same noise time and time again, it can be particularly annoying.
Well, the way I could answer that, we're talking about 3 occasions. We're likely to be doing, say, 3 flings a day in here, so it's not repetitive in that sense, and it's only a very short period of time. But the sound is not going to go upstairs. I mean, we know that they're going to do a proper professional job of soundproofing it, and we're not playing it exceptionally loudly anyway. But I mean, as I say, it's a shop. It's always been a shop. It's been a shop for about 150 years. It's had all sorts of uses. It at one time sold alcohol. It used to be a tailor's. Noise has always been part of it. And like other shops around the market square here, of which there are many, don't forget we have a bank, another offline apart from the Perthshire Arms, another craft shop. There's an artillery hall. It's a mixed use area, and people have got to just surely accept that in this sort of area there will be a degree of noise. But I think actually this place is going to be the best equipped premises in the whole area after they've done the work. Anyway.
Do you accept my understanding that the premises were occupied upstairs and downstairs by the same people previously?
No, it wasn't always the case. That's not true. They used to have people living upstairs and who were separate from the shop, and it's changed over the years. By the way, another point I would make is there was some question about the partition wall as being dealt with. The reason why the partition wall, which runs between the shop here and the corridor leading to the flat, hasn't been dealt with, is already very well soundproofed. It's got professional soundproofing in it, and we hear nothing from the corridor, from their entrance and their living room downstairs in the shop at all. So that encourages me to think that when they've carried the work out on the floor, there will be no sound problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Gray. Councillor Duff, you have a question.
Thanks, Vice Convener. I have 2, if that's okay. Obviously, in terms of licence, you have the licence from 10 AM to 10 PM 7 days per week. But I was just interested in what your sort of intended hours of operation will be or are likely to be going forward.
I'll take that, Councillor.
Hello, John, by the way.
Our Opening hours here are in the window as from 11 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. And that's what we are going to try and stick to. As my colleague Gillian mentioned earlier, there may be the odd occasion where we have to do a fling about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. They should last about an hour and a half. So we don't anticipate anything, going on within this premises after 7 o'clock. That's not our intention.
Okay, thank you. And my other question was in relation to the playing of music or sound from your PowerPoint presentation. Is that through some kind of speaker, and where are these speakers positioned?
I'll turn the thing around and can you just point out where the two speakers are? One there.
And one there.
And they're under cabinets.
They're under cabinets which are full of stuff, so they're very well soundproof between the ceiling and there is a bass speaker sitting on the floor. It's a Bose system, and it's easily controllable. So there's no sound actually in the ceiling itself, being broadcast from the ceiling itself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Vice Convener.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. I don't have anybody else.
Sorry, sorry, Convener. There's one further thing, if I could ask.
No, please do.
Seeing you've got the camera there, where is the fridge in relation to the layout of the premises?
They're referring to the chocolate cabinet here, and it is on at the moment. I don't know whether you can hear it. Can we carry that over?
Okay. Can you hear it at the moment?
I suppose it's not so much whether I can hear it, it's maybe whether Miss.
It's a very quiet fridge,
yeah.
And obviously it astonishes me that it can be heard upstairs, turning on and off. And I suppose I'm still puzzled about how it affects the adults upstairs, because as I understand it, their bedroom's one floor higher.
I think.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think the purpose of my question was about, whether there's this kind of vibration of noise through the fridge or through the speakers, as well as the kind of sound, if you like. But
no, I think the floor, by the way, the floor we've got here has got a very thick carpet, and it's very well soundproofed.
Okay.
And it's a solid floor, of course, too. So that helps.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. Do I have any further questions from councillors? Don't see any hands up or nothing in the comments. No further question. Okay. My question, actually, I wasn't going to ask a question, but having just seen where you were pointing to, with the speakers, they do seem very close to the ceiling. If they were repositioned, I'm just thinking, okay, they're within a couple of inches of the area which isn't actually soundproofed, and must attenuate through that floor.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. There are. Let me try and show you a little bit more where they are, Councillor. Can you see here our cupboards?
Yeah, okay, I get that, and that's why I was asking.
And the speakers are mounted underneath that, so that they're a good 18 inches from the ceiling already.
I totally get that. This is the question I was asking.
Yeah.
Because,
can I just say
if you consider, can I just ask my question? Excuse me, 1 second. It acts like a guitar. An acoustic guitar works with the frets on a bass, and you're plucking strings which pick up, via the box. And I'm just looking at the attenuation of those cupboards, empty cupboards, like acting like a guitar. Would that attenuate noise upstairs? And my question was, would you be adverse to moving those speakers away from those boxes?
I think it would. Can I just say something that might interest you? I have a degree in applied physics, and one of the subjects I studied was acoustics, and I've always been interested in hi-fi and acoustics, and I've actually made sure that they are acoustically separated from above. And these are only the high attenuation, the high tone frequencies. The actual bass frequencies are transmitting at floor level into the carpet. But if we move them, I know it won't make any difference, but I'm happy to do it if it helps us, if it helps you.
Can I add as well? Prior to Christmas, when there was a complaint about the noise from the music, the speakers were actually physically attached to the wall. We've taken them off the wall and put them underneath these cabinets, which weren't there before Christmas. So that maybe should alleviate some of the
point
transmission.
Okay, that's kind of where I was trying to get to, but thank you very, very much. And just for information, I was an avionics engineer and specialise in radio, so thank you. I have no further questions coming forward. Can I ask Mrs. McCall? Keep calling you McCall. You're not. Sorry, Mrs. Cormack. I'm getting wearing the teeth in
That's
for a
quite
horse.
common.
Sorry,
I'm used to it. That's all right.
Can you sum up, please, Louise? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. In terms of my report, the soundproofing work, as I understood it, hadn't been carried out because I think there was a struggle to pin down a tradesperson. So I'm quite confident that a date's actually been set for this work to be done. In terms of the policies as well, so the local condition that's been applied to the licence, the policies that I've received from the licence holder, although they are treated as finalised, I should say that the premises have committed to amending those policies as and when necessary, and are open to making the adjustments again as and when necessary. So although they're treated as finalised for the purposes of this, where we are at the moment, they have been very open to making any adjustments if that's required.
Thanks very much indeed, Louise. I won't try again. Can I ask Mrs. Robinson, as the objector, if you'd like to sum up at all, please?
Yeah, I'd just say that it's a shame to hear the business downstairs talking about things that are affecting us a lot as if they don't matter, and those are already things that are here right now, which is things like the fridge. And yeah, you listen to the fridge and it goes hum and then it stops, and then it goes hum and then it stops. And if you're saying that we don't hear that, well, I don't understand, how would we make that up, especially if, as you say, I've not been into your premises. So that is a problem, and I can only see that will get measurably worse when there is music coming out 3 flings a day and a video alongside that, along with all the people that presumably will need to be there to justify those flings taking place. So the level of change to this premises since 2014, when those were separated, is inordinate. And I just also refer the committee, if you haven't looked at it, to the report of planning enforcement from August on the breach of planning control, the breach of the Listed Buildings Act, and the breach of the advertising regulations that were found to be committed by this same premises. And I just think that some of these promises that are being made, I certainly don't have confidence, especially if I'm hearing that, you know, there hasn't been noise in the evening, when we know a lot of the building work was carried out in the evening to the property, keeping us all awake. So I think there are certain things that you can take on trust and certain things that I don't take on trust when we live above the premises and we've seen what has happened so far. And so, yeah, it's a shame. It's a small community. It'd be great if you guys lived in the community. You could maybe see some of the ways that other businesses operated and how we respect each other and we work together because we all live alongside each other. Like you said with the PA, you know, we had a problem with the PA, we go in, they change it. That's how it works. There's a pub down the road, yes. we know them, we talk to them, they live there, we all interact. It's tricky if you don't live there, if you don't engage with the people who live directly above the premises, and if you won't listen to simple things, like I'm just telling you, we hear the fridge every night, we wake up, I sleep with earplugs. That's just the truth. I'm not making it up for any random spurious reason, and I certainly don't want to have to move out of my house for a week to get soundproofing, but we are, because we've ended up where we are. What I would plea is that we do not add to this noise nuisance at this time, but we see what happens, because it's been a huge change just now to what that premises was prior to the separation in 2014 and to now. So thanks a lot for taking time to look over it, everyone. And yeah, sorry that we aren't particularly happy about the situation. Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Robinson. I turn now to the premises licence holder. Would you like to sum up, please, sir?
Yeah, I'll be brief. The lady has just completely misrepresented what happened vis-a-vis planning. We never breached any planning applications. The enforcement officer wrote and told us that, and I mentioned that at the last meeting, and you're aware of that. The fridge is not part of the application. We're allowed to have a fridge here. The fact that she is disturbed by the fridge, which is extremely quiet, indicates that they are obviously very sensitive about sound. And as I've said, until the soundproofing is done, which will happen on the week of the 4th of April, we will be careful to keep the sound level down. But we do want you to keep this business alive. It's doing well. It's had a lot of very favourable publicity. We have a lot of very loyal customers now, and we want to move on. And you guys hold our fate in your hands. I do hope you can help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for your summing up. I turn to members. Would like to obviously to retire to consider this application. Sorry, Councillor Gray, did you have a question?
You're mute, Tom.
Councillor Gray, you're on mute still. I noticed your hand was up, and I just wondered if you were asking a question. Sorry. No, you just
ask city managers and discuss in private, if we may.
Yep, I was just going to say, Tom, I think it's good that we retire. Can I ask Ms. Marsh, Mr. Holm, sorry, the applicant and the objectors, if you'd stay here, please. We're going to go into a separate room to discuss this, and we'll be back with you as soon as we possibly can. If you bear with us, shouldn't be too long. Okay.
Convener.
Thank you. Back short.
Sorry, it was just to remind the applicant and the objector that this is a live recording. Whilst we're out, it's still recording, so please remain on mute.
You beat me to it, so thanks for that, John. Yes, as my colleague has just said, if you stay in this meeting, if you'd like to mute your microphones, and even if you wanted to switch your cameras off, it's probably advisable as this is still being recorded. So yeah, anything you say or do will be seen. Okay, thank you. I notice you're off now. Thank you. We'll retire to the previous room. Thank you. Folks, sorry, we're just waiting for everybody to come back into this meeting. Sorry to have kept you waiting for so long. Just waiting on Councillor Duff at the minute.
I am here.
Oh, well done, John. Thank you. I'll just go around. We have the applicant, Ms. Robinson. Are you actually in? Your microphone's off and your thing. Yes, you're there. Wonderful. We have Sarah and Louise. So it looks like we're all back in. But sorry to have kept you waiting. Obviously, a emotive subject both ways, and a very, very lengthy and in-depth discussion. Do I have from members, please, a motion?
I have a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Parrott.
I have a motion for the to propose the deferment of the application for consideration to a later date, subject to conditions which be explained by committee officers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parrott. Do I have a seconder for that, please?
It's subject to us hearing the conditions. I'm prepared to second the motion.
So, convener,
you,
do you want me to narrate the conditions that Councillor Parrott wished to make the motion subject to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, please, Sarah. Thank you.
So the motion was to defer to a later date, and that would be for two reasons, or on two conditions. First of all, for the soundproofing work to be completed, and secondly, to allow the licensee an opportunity to commission a noise impact assessment on the effectiveness of those measures following their completion, should the licensing standards officer think that that is required. And just, I think, for clarification and explanation, I think the position would be that if the soundproofing resolves matters to everybody's satisfaction, then no noise impact assessment would be required. But it's to the board is trying to, or Councillor Parrott, I think, was trying to reach a position where if it's resolved, fine, but if it's not resolved, then when it comes back to the board would be looking for there to be a noise impact assessment that had been commissioned, which provided additional evidence for the board to be able to determine whether granting the application meets the licensing objectives. Does that reflect your position, Councillor Parrott?
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilson, are you happy to second?
Agreed.
Those conditions?
Agreed.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Do I have an amendment to that from any other councillor, please? No. In that case, motion stands and is agreed. The deferment as laid out by our deputy clerk. Thank you very much for your attendance today. That concludes the licensing board for today, and I thank you for your attendance. To the applicant, I'm sorry it might not have been the outcome that you would have liked today. That's the beauty of a licensing board. You know, it's a very difficult job to try and hold the balance and uphold licensing objectives. But thank you for your patience. And the objector, you know, it might not have been the decision you would have liked today, but for the same reasons, you know, we've tried to be fair to everybody. But anyway, thank you very much for your attendance today, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.